Hey, Dr. John Azar-Dickens with Enforce Health. I want to talk to you a little bit today about counseling. We've talked about it already in our first video related to that specifically, but today I want to talk about how to find a counselor, how to find someone that's right for you, and how important that is, and just some other issues related to it. We talked last time about how important it is for police officers to consider counseling when they have difficult times. If they're under stress, if they're faced with some sort of critical incident, if they're dealing with symptoms related to post-traumatic stress disorder or some other condition similar to that with a critical incident, those difficulties can certainly interfere with functioning, how well you do the job every day, with your relationships and other things. And we talked a lot about that during the first video that I made. I want to talk today, though, about the importance of finding the right fit. A lot of police officers will have talked to me about feeling like counseling just wasn't for them. They had a bad experience. They walked away feeling like it just wasn't useful. What I think it's important to understand and consider is that counseling requires a really good relationship with the person that you're interacting with. The ability to trust that person, a feeling that that person understands the job that you do, understands the stress of law enforcement. I mean, look, police officers go through unique situations. They deal with difficult people. They deal with life and death on a daily basis. And the counselor needs to understand that and understand how that then impacts the officer and the officer's life, especially the officer's relationships with family and with other people. There are counselors and psychologists out there who are trained specifically in this area, who are trained to understand the needs of law enforcement. Police psychologist, for example, is one area of psychology where the psychologist has trained specifically with a law enforcement population, has unique interventions that he or she can offer in treating a police officer or a police officer's family. So you want to seek someone who has that training and experience, but also you want to feel comfortable with that person. There needs to be a good fit. It may take you more than one attempt to find the right person. You may have a meeting with someone, have a couple of sessions, and feel like they just don't understand what you're dealing with, or they just don't feel comfortable with them. There's no shame in that. If you don't feel comfortable with them, seek someone else out. Don't let one or two bad contacts distract you or cause you to not want to pursue this kind of intervention. It certainly does take some people more than one attempt to find the right kind of person. The way to find a person, or some options, may be to talk to other officers or who you know have had counseling in the past. Get a feel for who they've worked with and who they liked. Word of mouth is going to be one of the best ways to find someone. You can also seek out people through professional associations. For example, your state or local psychological association, the American Psychological Association. Usually they keep a list of psychologists, for example, who are licensed and who have experience with law enforcement or who work specifically in police psychology. That's an option also. You can seek that out. You can Google just your state psychological association, give them a call, ask for some references of people that they would recommend. It's a great way to find someone. You make an appointment, go and meet with them, and recognize that those first few sessions are to establish a relationship. You're just getting to know them, they're getting to know you, and you're making a decision about whether or not this is the right person for you. And that counselor's doing the same thing. They're deciding, can I help this person? And you may collectively come to an agreement that it's not a good fit, or you yourself may feel like it's not a good fit. And there's no shame in saying, I don't think this is going to work. I'm going to seek someone else. Totally okay. And in fact, strongly recommended that you make sure that it's a good fit. Another issue that officers often mention to me is the issue of confidentiality. The question of, hey, will people know that I've been there? Will they know that I've done this? Will they know what I've said? Now, in seeking out a licensed professional person, that the state laws in most states, and I would argue probably all states, have limitations about what that counselor or psychologist can say in reference to what you've said. So in other words, they cannot disclose information about you. They can't even acknowledge that you have been in contact with them. That is you have privileged communication when you're talking to them. Now, under certain circumstances, if you're mandated to go to counseling through your department, through human resources. They may have some agreement with the counselor that individual then reports back to them. It's certainly something you want to clarify with the counselor initially as you start doing your work to make sure about the limits of confidentiality. But if you seek out a counselor or psychologist on your own, and it's not related to anything mandated by your employer, then that psychologist or that counselor by law cannot disclose anything about what you've said and can't even acknowledge that you've been there for therapy or counseling work. So rest assured that you're protected under their license. But if you have questions about that, it's something that you need to talk with them about and be very upfront with them about. If you're concerned about that issue, talk it through with them and let them know. So, as I said before, counseling is something you should not be ashamed of going to pursue. We all have difficulties, we all have problems, and sometimes we need a professional person who can help guide us along the way. That's true in our relationships, that's true in our work, regardless of what it is. So I would encourage you to seek this out. I would encourage you to consider it as a very helpful, useful intervention. Think about the importance of finding a person that you feel comfortable with. Do you feel comfortable in their office? Do you feel comfortable while you're waiting? When you're with them, do you get a sense that they know what the issues are? If you do not feel that way, then seek out someone else. But don't let that stop you from getting the help that you deserve so that you can be healthy. Keep in mind that a lot of people will talk about going to a counselor as a sign of weakness, or, hey, you're just not tough enough and you can't handle this. In reality, the truth is someone who has the ability to recognize that there's an issue, acknowledge that issue, and then seek out help is actually a very healthy person. And as someone, in my opinion, that is very strong and who is motivated to keep doing well and performing at high levels. And so rather than considering counseling a weakness, I really consider it a strength and would encourage you to pursue it and seek it out. If you have questions about this and you want to know some specific information, feel free. You can email me. My email address is drazar-dickens@gmail.com. You can link to us through the Enforce Health app. But if you have questions, feel free to contact me and I'll be happy to direct you in any way that I can.